Hi there. I'm Swami Subramaniam. I'm an independent consultant to the healthcare and pharmaceutical industries. My last corporate role was at Abbott Nutrition as head of R&D, and I was supposed to be in Mumbai for the Mother and Child Nutrition Conference. I was a speaker there. I am delighted that Informa has arranged for us to communicate informally using this platform. Let's take this opportunity to kind of have these informal educational communications, and this is great, and I hope it continues, and I hope I will get the opportunity to listen to a few of you. This is obviously a question on top of everyone's mind. When we are not worrying about the pandemic, we want to see if we can use our time well towards some self-improvement. And in the case of most of us who work in the nutrition industry, we wonder how we can actually spend this time productively, either improving our skills or learning something new or doing something for our company, working from home. Now, this is the pandemic is really once in 100 years event. The last time anything like this happened was in 1918. We had the Spanish flu pandemic. So it's not going to happen often. So it'll be a missed opportunity if you didn't take advantage of this hiatus in your life to do something for yourself. And when I say do something for yourself, I mean it in the sense of improving your skills and doing things differently now that you have the time to do so. And my advice to my younger colleagues out there would be, don't think about conventional trends and don't think about how you can follow conventional trends. This is actually a great opportunity to think and think outside the box, to come up with new and novel solutions. So my advice is, don't follow industry updates, don't follow industry trends. Spend your time thinking about what can be in terms of nutrition science, because obviously in many ways the nutrition sector has not taken off the way it ought to be taking off. So maybe this is the time we think about our industry and find options and find means and ways in which we can actually get the growth that we think we deserve. And apart from spending a lot of time thinking, and you can only spend so much time doing that, the other things that I would advise you to do is speak to potential customers. And these customers can be anyone, maybe your spouse, maybe your neighbor, maybe your friends, on the telephone, of course, because of physical distancing, we don't get close to anybody, but the entire world is available to us on a telephone. So please do speak to people and find out what they think the nutrition sector should be delivering to them in terms of products. And you might be surprised at what you find. It may not always be accurate. It may not always be exactly what you expect or want, but you will certainly open a gateway into a new way of thinking about the sector. And I think that's very valuable. And that is something you could do now because you have the luxury of time. You don't have the pressure of your day-to-day operational requirements. So you can actually go out and have these leisurely conversations where you find out what the customer wants. And that's something worth doing. I think the immediate impact is really on the entire supply chain. There has been shutdowns of manufacturing, difficulties in reaching products to customers. And one thing we should reflect upon very carefully is, do we define ourselves as an FMCG business or a medical business? Because if we are closer to the medical side, then we are considered essential both by regulators and by customers. And pandemic or no pandemic, people are going to be out looking for our products and buying them. So I think we need to focus and think more about building medical claims, clinical claims around products. And I know that there are significant challenges in doing that, but these challenges should not deter us from actually making the effort to come up with product concepts that make a clinical difference. And I do believe there are a number of unmet medical needs in terms of nutrition that are even today not being addressed for a variety of reasons. So I think that is something we could look at. It would be immune to these kinds of pandemics in terms of business criticality. So I think let us really look at producing nutraceuticals or nutrition products that truly help our customers in terms of their clinical needs. I would really take off from the previous two comments and say, this is the time for a company to build a product pipeline. I mean, you may not actually be able to do significant amount of R&D and get prototypes ready to do any prototype testing, but certainly there is nothing preventing you from creating a large number of product concepts. I mean, you're talking to customers, as I said earlier. This is the time you can develop these product concepts and build out a product pipeline so that you're ready when the lockdown lifts to actually put some of these ideas into your pipeline in terms of implementation. So along with that, it also means that you need to do some forward thinking about what kind of capabilities you will require in your company, what kind of capacities you will need, and you also need to think carefully about what are the likely scenarios that will be available when the lockdown lifts post-COVID. I mean, if COVID is going to be a really horrific pandemic in terms of killing large numbers of people, that's going to be a different outcome. If it peters out in the next few months or next few weeks, that's a different outcome. So between those extreme outcomes, you need to be prepared for any particular outcome coming true, because we are still too early in the pandemic to exactly precisely say how this is going to end. So some scenario planning would be very valuable, and if you can make some investment in terms of your understanding of your options in various scenarios, that would be useful. I don't think there is going to be a huge and dramatic change. I think the environment for nutrition and nutraceuticals has been moving in a certain direction all these past years. That movement is going to get accelerated. What I'm referring to is, since traditional nutrition, traditional nutraceuticals have not been working very well in terms of consumer or regulator acceptance, there is a move towards redefining conditions where these things can be applied and redefining the regulatory path for some of these products. So what does it mean in terms of a nutrition company or a nutrition R&D group? We need to think of new indications for which nutrition can be applied. And the COVID pandemic, puts out a very obvious need, which is the need to boost immunity. But again, this cannot be boosting immunity using hand waving or using some vague assembly of products. It has to be specific evidence-based compositions that can be, for which we can claim an immune promoting function. That would obviously be a requirement. The other thing is to think about diseases like obesity, for example, not so much in terms of managing weight, but more in terms of managing the consequence of obesity. Obesity is not in itself a disease. It is the diseases that obesity leads to that really cause morbidity. So one of the key pathways through which obesity, diabetes, and even many cardiovascular diseases cause morbidity is because of low-grade inflammation, and this is also seen in aging. So we can think of inflammation as a theme and look at products that can then fight inflammation. And we already have a lot of experience with turmeric and curcumin in terms of inflammation. There's a lot of scientific evidence backing it. But what is not available is robust studies, clinical studies, that show the impact of curcumin on inflammation, both at a molecular level and at a clinical level. We need that to be available. We may also need some further studies on mechanism of action for making claims around turmeric for inflammation. But having done that, turmeric and perhaps a few other ingredients put together, if we have a unit product for inflammation, then the applications are vast because inflammation seems to be an underlying pathology in a wide variety of clinical conditions. So I really would urge you to think about not just addressing the traditional vertical disease formats, but to talk in terms of pathologies that lead to a wide variety of diseases, like inflammation, or it could be oxidation, for example, the other example. The third theme that you might want to think about in terms of future thinking is climate change. And what will climate change lead to? Climate change will lead to the difficulty in producing certain kinds of grains. There might be difficulty in milk supply. And these are things you can anticipate, prepare for, by coming up with alternate ingredients and formats that are relatively impervious or immune to the effects of climate. And ICRISAT, for example, does a lot of work on semi-arid climate crops. And many of those products that they have developed may be of greater importance as we go further along the climate change trajectory. Fourth, I know that the air is very clear, but be very sure the moment this lockdown lifts, air pollution is going to be back at the original levels. And we already know that air pollution is a major killer. So we need products that can favorably influence the negative consequences of air pollution, whether it is products that would prevent oxidative damage or prevent the inflammation caused due to air pollution. We do need nutraceutical products to do that because clearly has to be tackled primarily from a lifestyle angle and not from a pharmaceutical or medical angle, at least until you have actually been diagnosed with a clinical condition. So those are some ideas I thought I'll throw out, and I'm sure when you do your own thinking, you will come up with a few more ideas of your own. And I would like to leave you with two more thoughts. One is that one thing that we have learned from this epidemic, and we have been learning over the last decade or so, is that there is a need for personalization of products. And you may not have, for example, if you may not have the single jar of product that you manufacture in the millions and sell to everybody. You may have to design products in such a way that they can be adapted by customers to their individual requirements. For example, if you have a person with heart disease and diabetes, there is a product for that person. And there could be a different product for somebody with heart disease alone, or somebody with heart disease and a weight management problem. So think about how products can be customized, personalized to individuals. And this also brings me to the opportunity that if you can design products such that this kind of customization or personalization can be done at the level of the consumer, at the point of consumption, POC, point of consumption, that would be fantastic. So if you can provide options for customers to adapt the product to the need of the day. For example, if somebody has joint pain on a given day, then there would be a particular product that he can adapt for joint pain use on that particular day. Whereas on a different day, if the person is having difficulty in sleeping, then he may need a slightly different product, and he should be able to take the base of the product and adapt it for promoting sleep just by adding a few extra ingredients. So I think this kind of personalization and customization of products for individual use is a huge opportunity. And especially now that we have this work from home, and work from home is probably going to become more of the norm in the future. Now that we have tasted it, most people say, yes, we can do most of our work from home. Especially in this circumstance, people are going to be working from home. They're going to be more in control of what they do. And they will want these kinds of choices and options in terms of their nutrition as well. So I will leave you with that thought. I wish you all a very safe transit through this COVID-19 lockdown. I look forward to seeing you all at the other end of this, maybe when the conference is rescheduled. And if I'm given an opportunity, I would be happy to come back and speak a little more. But I certainly look forward to hearing some of the thoughts that you guys may have on some of the points that I have raised. Thank you and goodbye.